Right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 23rd meeting of the Rochester School Board. At this time, we will do the flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There you are. It's all the guys. Okay. Wonderful surprise. You're in person today. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, roll call. Juana. Wonderful. Michael. Thomas. Present. Grant. Present. Wonderful. We're all here today. Neil, I'm present also. So, at that point, we've now completed our roll call. And we are at the point of public comment for items that are on the agenda tonight. We have anyone in waiting?
We have one person online, but they don't want to comment. So we're good.
No one here?
Yeah,
No one online wants to comment. So wait for 30 seconds?
No, we don't need to wait for 30
Going
seconds.
to wait?
No.
Okay, make sure. All right, at this point in time, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. So, should we do these individually or should we do all four A through D?
You can go ahead and do them all together.
All right. All right, at this point in time, we're going to approve the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve? A second?
Second.
Oh, 1 second. All right. All right. So, we've just first and seconded. So, we'd like to make a motion to approve this now. Oh, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's approved.
I want to abstain. My daughter was a assistant coach in the middle school team.
Okay. All right. Let the record show that Grant is abstained. All right. And moving forward, we go to student reports. You are up, sir.
All right, well, Dr. Beckman sent me an interesting email last night, which asked me a question on what should stay the same in Rochester and what should change. And that was a tough question. And I'll be honest, I asked a lot of people, so a lot of these ideas aren't mine. And I was talking to a teacher, and she said, maybe there should be a student's opinion. And I said, I think this should be everyone's opinion, as we are a community and everyone should be involved. What I remember Dr. Bethman said, this is like the Supreme Court. I should probably talk to other people about my ideas, but one of the first things I said we should keep was the ceramic studio. There are so many teachers that have little ceramic pots everywhere. It's amazing. And they're all colorful. The students are talented too. And what else? Dr. Bethman, just stopping by to teach the band. I mean, that's just amazing with your skill. I mean, you're passing that down. I heard this is one of the higher political figures in this community, since we don't have a mayor. And I heard we could perchance to talk to the tribe and try to make a transit system for students after school. Maybe it runs 3 times a day, not too many. And to help them get home. And I don't know, just planting a seed there. Just in my youth, I would have appreciated a bus system here. Bike racks, that's a necessity. Yeah, enough said. Yeah, well, I'll get back to ideas, but prom, that was awesome. The area was a bit sketchy. It looked a bit industrial. Yeah, but I mean, I loved it. They had free Italian sodas, and I indulged. But we have a field day June 9th. I don't know much about that because I'll be gone by then, so none of my business. We are currently doing a sunscreen drive for Ugandans with albinism. So that's very helpful. The next president, she had some ideas that I wrote down, but I'm not going to steal them. So she can show off her talents next year. Next week, we're having a spirit week, and one of my favorite days is surfers versus bikers. I just like that classic combo. We have soccer moms versus barbecue dads and Adam Sandler day. So that'll be a hoot. Yeah.
Where was the second one?
It's called The Loft in Centralia. Yeah. I've never heard of it before, and the whole building's called The Loft, even though there's a first story. So which is interesting. Yeah, it's nice. So like really learning at this point. I appreciate the honor for being able to talk about some bias. Thank you.
Mike, second. Second. You want to second? Ashton, we've got a card for you, and I want to thank you from the board, and maybe the board has things to say as well, but thanks for being here this year and letting us learn from you as a student. I've gotten to know you this year, and I've really enjoyed it. I think we're going to do great things. We're going to be recognizing you again next week. Is it next week at the awards? 2 weeks. So we have 2 weeks. All right. We don't have very many days left at all, but we do have 2 weeks before the awards banquet, and we'll recognize you again there for your role on the board or working with the board here. But really have enjoyed working with you. You've been a pleasure to have here and to listen to and to learn from. So that's a card for you.
I appreciate the honor and the privilege, and thank you so very much.
Anything else from the board?
Look, you're at it. You're coming with a positive attitude, have a few more to move forward. So you're here consistently. And look forward to hearing what your future brings. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope I can contribute to this community one day.
I just want to say thank you for all the time and effort put into attending these meetings. The meetings when we're addressing the shortages moving into next year, kind of make sure we have a balanced budget. It was nice to see you there and some of the other students also attending and the parents. Been a lot. And figure all that navigation is to tonight. So to say thank you.
Thank you. Start crying.
I guess at this time we'll move on to the principal reports. End of year.
So each principal is here tonight, and they're going to share with you the progress on the goals that they set for their school improvement plans. First up, the primary school.
One of these years, let's start with the high school, just say.
Next year.
Oh, next year. I need to get my timer set because I am making all of my goals tonight. Okay. So at the primary school, we focus 2 of our 3 goals on reading. And we use the iReady benchmark test as our measurement of this. Our first goal is specific to 2nd grade students who also qualify for the multi-language program. 30 of the kids at the beginning of the year. We have 2 kinds of goals in iReady. You've got your typical growth goal, meaning you've learned a year's amount in a year's time. Woohoo! And then we have your stretch goal, meaning you've learned more than a year's amount in a year's time. So all of our ML students, they do not have English language proficiency the same as their peers. Really an outrageous goal was set because this is all the cards stacked against them. All 30 did not make it. It says 8 up there, but another kiddo finished her test just today. Now it's 9 kids who don't have the same language as their peers made more than a year's gains in their reading, and that's to be celebrated. We have 2 kiddos who are really close in the 90 to 99% range, and 1 kid's in the neighborhood. The other 19 are not close. Like I said, the data is still coming in, so I've had cursory analysis of it. But we also have coming in right now the WIDA test results, which is their achievements of their language acquisition in English. So Candace Robinson, who is our ML teacher, we've got a date to look at this data and see how that comes together and what it tells us, especially about the 9 who did make it. So we can perhaps replicate that experience for others. Our second goal is still about reading. At the beginning of the year, we tested all the kids with the already test in reading, focusing on phonics. We did have 18 kids in first grade who started the year 2 to 3 years behind already in the first graders. Holy cow. In second grade, we had 47 students at the beginning of the year, 2 to 3 years behind. Set really ambitious goals that we cut that by 90% for first grade and 75%. We did not make it. However, we do have from 18, we've got only 6 kids in the zone for first grade. And for our second graders, we're down to 24 kids from 47 in the zone. This, I've had a little more time playing with the data, and I've got all my little notes in Scritchy Scratch, and I made a pretty graph, and it's not to be shown to you because it includes some information which internally we need to make some changes about how we're addressing some children's needs in their core instruction. So the work that we've been as a district working on with inclusionary practices, with coming as instructors, administrators, as well as for instructors to understand universal design for learning, even stretching back 6 years ago to structured student talk. I've always known where we needed to go, but with these other pieces and really digging into this data, I have a much clearer path than where we're going to go next year to get there. So while this is disappointing personally, there's a lot to be learned from this, and we know where we're going to go. And again, I'm not setting itty bitty little weeny goals. I'm going big because it's about phonics, it's about the kids, it's about getting where they need to be. And with the plans we've got in place, they're going to be okay by the time we leave her building. And the next goal, we made it. I wish I could sing like, those fancy singer ladies. So our third goal is around social emotional learning. As we told you guys at the beginning of the year, this crew of kids, because they're, all during the pandemic time, never got to be in all of the places around our campus in the normal amounts of kiddos until this year. So that was that first coming together. Oh, they've never been in the gym to have lunch. How are we going to do that? We don't try to teach them. As a staff got together, all of the common spaces, breezeways, hallways, the lunchroom, the bathrooms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How do we expect them to function there? We figured that out. We taught them how to function there. And then we as adults got to practice correcting fluid. As in, I come across some kid not doing the right thing. That's not worth a write-up. That's a honey. This is how we're going to do it here. Get the kid doing it right, compliment them, move on. And it worked. If you'll go to the next one, sir. All of this data is from Skyward. It was from the beginning of the year until I think Tuesday. When you fill out a Skyward referral for misdeeds and misbehavior, there's a spot to write in the location so that Danny and I can look at it to figure out where we got some zones. Where do we need to either have more adults or more teaching? There are 132 referrals across this whole year that did not have the location marked. Those that have a red slash across them, those are not common areas. They're like classrooms. If it says the gym, it means like during PE. We actually had apparently 2 write-ups on a field trip. Those aren't the ones we're talking about. We're talking about breezeways, walkways, that sort of thing. Those are the all really low numbers that are close to the baseline, which shows that we did teach the kids how to manage themselves, and we've been correcting them, and they've been working out just fine. You could have my extra time there.
Any questions?
Questions, thoughts, concerns?
None at this time.
Come back later. I've got answers for you.
We may have questions.
All right.
Any other board members? Thank you.
So our first goal was to increase student achievement in ELA. And with our kids in the red category and trying to get them to less than 20% of our kids being in that red category. So this, hopefully the colors make it really easy for you to read. So looking across at the top was where we were at in the fall with kids in that red category. So you can see between those two, we had 173 kids in the red zone. And then looking into spring, when we reassessed, we got that all the way down to 31 students in the lowest red zone, and then 65. So I've indicated the reduction at the top. It was a huge reduction and a nice growth in our green area. So still lots more to go. We're not happy with 20%. We're actually at 19. So our goal was to be below 20%, and we hit it at 19. So we want to, of course, keep reducing that, but made a significant reduction there. So looking at next steps as we head into next year, well, actually, as we head into summer, we want to encourage all of our students that are still in that red zone to participate in the iReady summer program. We want to start our interventions earlier in the fall, so we can just use this data to get us started, and then continue to improve tier 2 and 3 intervention system, along with, of course, make sure our tier 1 supports are strong. Our core instruction. Our second goal was to really zone in and focus on our kids that were our multilingual students that are also identified as needing support in Title Lab. So we were going to try to double that engagement. So we did make good progress. I'll show that in a minute, but our measurement tools weren't very good. And frankly, that's because I didn't set that up very well. We had 35 students that were identified, 39 students that were identified. We did the classroom visits, we did the teacher conversations, we talked about student progress, but really the goal was written around increasing that engagement piece, and we didn't measure that very well. We didn't have a very good tool in place. However, having said all that, similar graph, this is their growth in reading. So because we were targeting kids in red, of course, those 39 kids were all in that red area. Some just 2 years below and some 3 or more years below. So by our spring testing, which happens in early May, we actually had a kid jump all the way to the green zone, 18 kids in the yellow zone being just 1 grade level below. We shrunk that 3 or more, as you can just see illustrated. So significant growth there, but still want to work on that. So as we look into next year, if I was to write a similar goal, we're either going to write one where we can clearly measure it better or set up a good measurement system for it. And then, of course, continue to really work on those engagement strategies to help kids continue to grow and have the highest impact. Our third goal was to improve the overall social emotional health of students at GMES. Our students actually, when they were first assessed on the DESA, came in, we felt pretty good. And then in the spring, it shows the growth. So looking at the side, well, let's look at strengths first. We like to do that. So we had 106 students that showed strength in their social emotional skills. And that grew to 166 by our spring assessment. The typical is like the average range for social emotional health. We had more in the fall, less in the spring, because so many went over to the strength area. In our need for some real specific instruction, individualized, we had 18 students, which equals 4%. And still in the spring, we have 4%, 22 students. Some of that's because of a few kids that moved in. But what I want to bring your attention to is up in the corner is, for me to remember to mention this, the DESA folks say it's kind of a norm to have about 16% of your kids in the red zone and 16% in the green zone and everybody else typical. So to me, this is a huge celebration. Although we're very concerned about our kids in that red zone, we're really excited that we're at 4% and not 16%. And we far exceeded the kids in the strength area. Even as we started the school year, we were above that. So feeling great about that. So as we look into next year, we're going to continue all the stuff we're doing because apparently it's working. So the cell lessons in the classroom, continued special groups that are run by the counselor, and then individual support and all those things you see in black are all the different kinds of individual support that happens. Yes, all the way down to the secretaries. Sometimes they're the front line of meeting those kids. And then those kids in the red zone, really creating individual support plans for them because they have the most extensive needs. And then a couple quick celebrations. You know, we've done some strong idle work. You've heard about it all year in our PLCs, and they're doing a great job with unit planning. And then we really beefed up our communication with families. Peach Jar was something that Jennifer brought to us. That along with newsletters, remind texting, phone calls. Parents just really feel like they're getting really good information and they know what's going on. So. Any questions?
Do you have any, maybe it's too early, but do you have any sense for the iReady summer program? How many?
I don't, we just have the flyer going out, I think tonight. So Maggie Evans and the instructional coaches have been working on that. So we just have a flyer going out and then we'll have people sign up. We are going to reach out to those families. I'm actually going to ask teachers to reach out because they know their kids best, to try to encourage those kids that need it the most. Any kid can sign up for it, absolutely, but those ones so we can keep them learning over the summer to give them a better jump start in the fall.
Along was it the interventions earlier in the fall? When do you start that assessment? How do you?
So we were benchmarking, you know, assessing them. And what we're gonna do, we usually assess them a few weeks into school, but we're gonna actually use the data we have now, because what we've seen is it's pretty atypical for a kid to make a huge jump over the summer when they've had a lot of intervention. Usually they still need that intervention coming back in the fall. So our plan is when we come back in the fall, maybe week 2 or 3, we're just going to hit the ground running. We know who these kids are. And the kids coming up from the primary, we know who those kids are because they have that data. So we can put them in groups, or if they're in the classroom, those teachers know these are the skills those kids need. Let's just get at it. And if something happened over the summer that all of a sudden they got the skills, those kids are going to pop out pretty quickly. But that wouldn't usually isn't typical. So rather than waiting a few weeks, we're going to get them from the get-go. Any other questions?
So is the testing that you do, like what Grant just asked you, is that internal testing or is that a state type of testing or
We use
assessment?
it as a district, K-8.
Okay,
So it's a building level test that we do in the fall, again in January, and then in the spring. So we do it a little early. We do it the first week of May. So there might still be some learning that happens after that, but we jump right into at elementary. I don't know, you guys might test a little later with math, but the elementary, we jump into state testing afterwards. So we do it early in May.
and when you build your charts, the one like I think it was your first one that you have on there, do you go back and look at the one, say like, let's just use prior to COVID. Would you go back and look in there and see how well you're doing compared to there? So if you had 10 students failing there and now you only have 8, do you go back and look at that and compare and say, oh, well, I was doing better back then, but I'm doing worse now, or or vice versa?
We can look at that data at a student level. We can look at it at a building level. We can look at it more ways than I probably explored. iReady has such a combination of reports, and it tells us individually what to do with kids. Yeah, it's loaded with everything. So yes, we have that ability to go back and look at just a student over time. Thank you. Great questions. Any others?
I had a question. But the kids that are still 2 years plus behind, what kind of engagement are you having with their parents? Is it something that's you're continuing to hear from them and they realize the situation with their children?
I think it's going to vary from family to family. So, yes, obviously we're having our regular conferences. We have teachers reaching out in between as well. If they're working with like our ML students, that ML teacher might be reaching out and talking about what they're doing as well. So that's a good question, because that might be something we need to dig a little deeper on, and to make sure, are we reaching each and every one of those families? Yeah. And we have a few that have had attendance challenges. So that's another piece that wasn't in here, is obviously they have to be here to learn. So always looking at that attendance piece.
Important with family engagement, especially post-COVID, and a lot of things have turned upside down in a lot of families' worlds. So, thank you. Thank you.
You bet.
Good evening, folks.
Thank you. Speed that up a little bit. Our first goal was that RMS Latino Hispanic students would show typical or better growth on their reading iReady scores in the spring benchmark of 23 versus 22. These were the things that we looked at as strategies that we were working on: pre-reading, vocabulary, summarizing, and iReady became a really big one beginning in November. So this was our board in November. We had nobody up there. You needed to get 5 iReady lessons successfully completed. In order to get up there, we figured we might get a couple of 100 kids up there. And we got almost 400 of our students up there. It got so crazy, next one, that we missed our finish line and had to up and over the wall that goes into the gym and band room and all that. So our kids did a bang up job on spending time working on lessons, the majority of it outside of school. So we found a way to kind of extend the school day by motivating kids. So this was a little discombobulated, but I'll explain real quick. So our goal results, we had 25 of our 40 students in the 6th grade grow at 100% or more. That's 1 year's growth. So 1 year's growth in a year, we'll take it. 9 out of 40 did not make that level. In the 7th grade, 27 out of 52 grew at 100% or more. And again, 20 out of 52 didn't make that level. And then 8th grade, 31 out of 50 grew at 100% or more, and 16 out of 50 didn't. Can we go back a second? Sorry about that. I thought I had another slide in there. We definitely have some plans in order to work on both celebrating and improving even our students that did grow a year or more, but also some remediation work that we know we need to do with the students that you see there. There's a decent chunk of folks there that we need to get some help to. So we're going to do that. Okay, thank you. Our second goal was students would show typical or better growth on iReady spring math benchmark against the fall. And again, that's all of our students. In our 6th grade, the median score was 100% growth. Like I said, 100% is a year. We had 28 students at 200% or more. They grew 2 years or more in 1 year's time. And a significant number of those folks were students with IEPs, which we just love that. We had, again, though, at the other end, we had 38% that reached less than 20%. And so there's some folks that are going to need some more remediation and some more help from us. At the 7th grade, 85% growth, not quite where we wanted it to be. But again, 26 students at 200% or more, and a pretty big chunk of students, 43 at under 20%. And 8th grade median score 100%, not bad at all. 36 students. We normally think of 8th graders as less likely to be encouraged to work hard, to do better. Our 8th graders did really well. Again, that was our highest number at 200% or more, but also our highest number at under 20%. So we still have some work to do with over 120 kids that we need to get some specific help to. Our goal 3, SEL, students would increase their SEL self-awareness skills throughout the school year as measured by DESA, grades, write-ups, and attendance. We delivered SEL curriculum. We had some small group work with our counselors. We integrated SEL vocabulary and work into all of our classes. This one didn't turn out exactly like I hoped, but what I will say is, again, paying attention to the green and the blue and paying attention to the red getting smaller. At the 6th grade, we went from 6% needs instruction down to 3%. We cut the number in half. So that 6th grade spring that needs instruction cut in half. At the 7th grade, we went from 12%, definitely not a number that we were loving, 12% down to 6%, again, cut in half. And at the 8th grade level, we started off the year at 18% of our students needing instruction, and that number was reduced to 4. So we had a more than 75% reduction in that number for 8th grade. Again, bang up job by the folks, and yeah, doing really well. Oh, I know I'm missing a slide now. That's okay. So next year, we have some big plans for next year to try to work on leveraging that motivational piece that we used with iReady and all of the success that we had with that. Remember, we didn't kick that off until the second week of November. We want to leverage that to some of these other areas. We want to leverage that to attendance. We want to leverage that to write-ups. We want to leverage that to spend a little bit more time working with our challenged folks.
See what you had.
No, we're good.
Okay.
We're good. We definitely did not end up where we wanted to be in terms of write-ups. We have more write-ups this year, significantly more than we had last year. And we have 31% more at the 6th grade level. You want to talk about like year over year. We do look at those kinds of things. We have 31% more write-ups, all the same teachers this year versus last year at the 6th grade level. So it's not like we got a whole bunch of new folks and, so that's something that we also want to very much find a way to motivate kids utilizing some different things like we did with iReady. So questions for me?
You talked about attendance. Do you want to?
Same thing with attendance, because we're at a similar amount of attendance from this year versus last year, about 75% with chronic attendance. I'm sorry, positive attendance, about 25% with chronic attendance issues. And chronic attendance is 18 or more absences in a school year, so 10%. We've got a pretty decent chunk of folks that are missing school. And, we call them, we try to get them in. We do work with community truancy stuff and community engagement stuff. Lots of years of community truancy stuff, community engagement stuff. So, yeah. Questions?
Well, you had talked about wanting to do like you did with the other, with, I assume the display with the race cars and all that. Is that what you're talking
I'm
about?
not sure we're going to be putting displays up for write-ups and things like that, but so along with that was, hey, if you get 5, we've got ice cream. If you get 10, we've got popcorn. If you get to 20, we're going to have open gym once a month for a whole week. You can come in the morning before school and go into open gym instead of like heading straight to your classrooms or, that sort of thing. So we're going to come up with different things and ways to celebrate kids' improvement and that sort of thing.
On slide number 24.
Yeah.
So how do we get this numbers closer together? So from 6th grade, you said 25 out of 40 students grew at 100%. How do you get that? I'm trying to understand the slide itself.
Okay.
25 of 40 students. How do you get it? 40 of 40 students grew at 100%.
Great question. So again, this is 25 out of 40 students grew a whole year's growth on iReady reading. Okay, so that's what that's saying. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know for sure how to get 100%, but that's one of the things that we're talking about. We're looking at some different ways next year to do some remediation with some folks. We're looking at some different ways to organize some classrooms. And so, we're not just going to go, well, close enough. No, we're going to target those students to try to help them to be more successful.
So let's pick on the 6th grade real quick.
Sure.
So this is the easiest one.
It's right there at the top.
So if you look at, we're just going to focus on the 6th grade. Could you go back and look and say at the elementary school?
Yep.
That they need to do something else, not do something else or add to or something else to help that become better? Is there something else that that the elementary school can do that when they get to the 6th grade, that number can?
So I'm going to tell you, I have a tremendous amount of respect for the work that the elementary folks do. It's not a job that I think I would be well suited for. So I don't know exactly. I know that they're working hard to do things no different than, the high school can look at us and go, hey, could you send us some kids that are a little bit further along? We're going to target the kids that we have with the expertise that we have dealing with middles. And we take a look at the 5th grade information. So we're not just waiting until we get to the end of 6th grade to go, well, let's see what happened. We'll take a look at the 5th grade information to see what kind of help we can offer to those 6th graders when they come to us.
Okay. Yeah, and that's what I'm asking. I'm not
Yeah.
saying they're not all
No.
But if
down
if I
there.
can interject, I would say and I know Will would do this, if he saw a pattern of this is a skill that's consistently missing in these kids that aren't making the target,
Mhm.
then I know he would come to me and say,
Yes,
hey,
so that's,
Kelly,
yeah,
so what can we do at the elementary to make sure we fill that gap?
yeah, and that's what I'm asking. That
I just listened to
what
her
I'm
talk
asking.
about that earlier when she was doing, hey, we've been looking at these kinds of stats and we see this kind of work, and so this is what we're doing, so. yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or,
That's one of the joys of this admin team is that we aren't afraid to talk to each
Oh, no.
other, and so I could do the same to Amy. Hey, I'm seeing these gaps coming into third grade of these specific skills. What can we do?
Yeah.
And
and we're getting into a point now, post-COVID, that we're getting some trend data on where kids, not just, what craziness happened 3 years ago, but where are they happening, a couple years in a row now when we're back.
Any other board members have questions on any of these? I do.
Yeah.
Page 26, please.
We don't-
Oh, you guys got page numbers down.
So he's looking at
Number
RMS result.
RMS results.
This one, sir?
Yes.
All right.
That one. Hey, you were explaining, we have about a 30% truancy problem.
I wouldn't say that at all.
Okay.
So if we were talking about the attendance issue, where I said we have about a 25% absenteeism rate,
Yes.
that's not truancy. That's absenteeism. You've got kids sick, you've got kids going on family vacations, there are, doctor's appointments, dental, there are lots of reasons why students are absent. We have some students that are absent way too much. We have some students that are hitting that 18 mark. They're absent twice a month. I mean, that'll do it. Twice a month, we'll do it. And so, no, I want to make sure that I'm clear with everyone. This is not a truancy. That's not a truancy number. We do not have 25% of our students that are truant regularly or anything like that. So not even unexcused absence, which is like I overslept. If you oversleep, that's not an excused absence. You're not truant, but it's not an excused absence. So.
And going with 38 less than 20%, 43 under 20%, 49 under 20%.
Yes.
At the very end of these on all these different grades. And this is with the iReady testing. And this is a situation where these kids are still 2 years behind.
This is iReady math, that many of them are 2 years behind, or not necessarily. Some of them just didn't grow to the level that we would have expected them to grow. They might have started off at their grade level and didn't grow to the level that we would have expected them to grow.
Okay.
So
So you think this?
some of them stayed at their same grade level. Some of them started off sixth grade level. They were sixth graders, sixth grade level. Great, you're a sixth grader. End of the year, still sixth grade, but didn't grow that much. So.
So they're not meeting the expectations. And these are things that you guys are all communicating with to try to figure out where we can balance this to bring these kids back up. I'm afraid these kids are gonna get lost. That's my concern. And the kids that are at the bottom of these classes, they're the most important people to me. The kids that are graduating, the kids that are excelling, they're wonderful. And God bless them. I'm concerned about the kids that aren't gonna make it to graduation.
So we're talking about two different things here, and I want to make sure that I'm clear so that we're talking about the right stuff here. Some of those students that increased 2 grade levels are a grade level or 2 behind still.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that you know that some of these numbers on the left that look wonderful, because they are wonderful for growth, they are awesome. They may still be students who are behind. We may still be targeting those students to help those students to get to grade level. So it's not just these kids that we'll target. Now we're going to have conversations here because some of these kids were working at an 8th grade level and just didn't grow much. So that's where they ended up. So we're going to have some conversations about what do we need to be doing to challenge some of these kids a little more. Some of them might be resting on their laurels. I don't know. But some of those students are also like you're talking about. Some of those students are also struggling students academically. They are also behind. And we really need to do some work to help them. But I want to make sure that you don't think that the students that increase 200% or more are necessarily all in great shape automatically, because they're not. And some of that success, a lot of that success, is hard work that they put in, hard work that teachers put in, hard work that families put in at home. And we've got kids, like I said, many of the students on that left side that did really well are students with IEPs. They're still a year or 2 behind, but they're not 3 behind now. They're not 4 behind now. They're only 2 behind. You give me a kid that comes to the middle school or is in 7th grade, that's 4 years behind, and they leave the 7th grade 3 years behind or 2 years behind. Hey, we moved them up a bit. We moved them up a bit. And let me do that over a couple of years and now we're close. So I'm a fan. But they're still struggling students and we still need to give them that attention. So does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely. It's the learning loss is just astounding. And to try to get all these kids back where they belong. And I thank you all. This is tremendously hard work and you know, attendance is a big aspect of that. If they're not here, they're not going to learn.
It is a challenge.
And hopefully we can get more kids involved with the iReady with the summer program.
Yep.
And I find it, I remember when I was a kid, it's like summertime, forget school. And it's like, okay, now a month or two later, okay, how did I do that again? You know, so. You know,
Even summer learning loss, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's one of the things that we're looking at, those motivational pieces. What can we do to get kids interested enough to avoid that summer learning loss? So, yeah.
Neil brought something up that just we have our wheels turning on here a little bit. He's talking about these kids and not wanting to lose them and not wanting them not to graduate, things of that nature. When we look at these folks on the end where they're 2 or 3 years behind, I'm sure you guys have looked at this, but how does that correlate over to their grades? Like, are those kids failing or are they still passing the classes? They're just behind, or is that kind of, you know what I'm talking about?
You know, many of our students that are 2 years behind are still passing their classes.
That's why
Teachers are scaffolding work. We've got students with IEPs.
Yeah.
They may have accommodations or modifications in their IEPs that help us to help them to be successful. And it's a little bit different than other students may be accessing within those classrooms. And that's one of the things that we're looking forward to making some alterations to next year, as I talked about, is trying to get more of our students into grade level classrooms, even if they're getting some co-taught situations or some extra help in those classes or what have you. But I would not say students with disabilities, students with IEPs do struggle more in classes normally. I would not say that they have a huge percentage of Fs compared to some of our other students, but we have lots of areas still to work in. You know, when you talk about students with low incomes, talk about students of color, we have areas that we need to focus on. And that's why, you know, you saw some of that in our goals. So we know that there are areas that we need to focus on. Thank you.
Thank you.
More.
You don't want more. He even said something that starts a question for me to ask, and I'm not gonna ask you more questions because it just leads to other questions.
We'll wait for you to halfway back to his chair.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, good evening, everybody. So at the high school, I have 3 goals to share with you this evening. The first 2 goals are very similar. And really what this has to do with is teaching students how to critically read and write. The first goal is all students, and the second goal, is really looking at our 9th to 10th grade students. The basis of this goal is to attempt to get our social studies and our English teams to focus on some common work using common strategies, so there's less variation between classrooms and between learning. When we do that and we implement those things correctly, what you have is some really accurate data about what needs to be improved. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about, you know, when they started this goal, what we had with our first goal, we had about 14% of our students who were meeting standard. They selected this goal and selected a standard that went across all 4 grade levels. It is a critical standard in English and language arts, and it has to do with evaluating text and writing response to the text that you understand. Go ahead and take that one. So the actions. So one of the first actions was getting adults to coordinate, right? So to make sure that the ELA and social studies were using the same language, same vocabulary techniques, same scaffolding techniques, so that it wasn't different and the kid wasn't experiencing different types of instruction across their day, right? It would be a novel idea to be all on the same page. So to do that, they started talking about creation of benchmarks, and benchmarks have been around for a while, but that's where they started. And those benchmarks, the new addition is they had to be aligned to essential standards, which is a district initiative, and they had to include a proficiency scale, which is also a district initiative. That's new learning for these educators. We had data analysis, there's common instruction and critical reading, And then the last bullet point there, the creation of common formative assessments. Formative assessments are just-in-time assessments that tell you what's going right and what's going wrong in a way that you can fix it versus waiting till the end and having it be too late. Go to the next one. So actions were very similar for 9th and 10th grade. So the actions that we had were really looking at 9th and 10th grade performance, really looking at the needs of 9th and 10th graders as opposed to 11th and 12th graders, both like developmentally, but also the need for additional structure and scaffolding because you need to have it on shorter durations of time. So mid-year, go in there, you can go to the column. Yeah, you're fine. All right, I'm keeping track with you. So we saw some booming success at mid-year, right? We went from goal 1, we went from 14% of students meeting standard to 69% of students. Just some amazing growth. And that was just using the teachers working together, having similar strategies, and those kids hearing it day in and day out ad nauseum is really helpful. Goal 2, we saw even better growth. So this is our 9th and 10th grade students. What I'll tell you about these 2 goals is that there was a lot of supports around this data point. So you can't teach a kid how to use a tool and then not provide them that tool when it comes time to like, show me what you know. So one of the reflections at mid-year, some of the reflections were from the teacher side is proficiency scales were great in identifying areas of weakness and growth for kids. So it's tuning teachers into what they need to be teaching and how they need to be teaching it. A lot of this was the process for educators to identify when do we need to intervene with kids. And it shouldn't be till when all the work's already done. It should be like in the middle of the work so we can teach them the right way. And then the big ahas out of this were don't assume students have background knowledge in all the topics we cover, right? So a lot of our kids don't have the same knowledges and they need to be exposed to common vocabulary and common experiences to build that background knowledge in order to perform. So at mid-year, they said, well, this data is great, but here's some areas that we need to still focus on. It's over there on the right, don't worry, Justin. So it is continuing the scaffolding, paragraph scaffolding. And what that means is here's what a good paragraph looks like, right? And we sometimes don't think about that, but unless you learn about what it's supposed to look like, it's really hard to achieve it. So it's really teaching kids like this is what it looks like, helping them define academic vocabulary with common systems, use of student anchors. So it's not something that's grounded in teacher expertise. It's something grounded in student expertise. Revision protocols. So how do we work together to get better? So through self-reflection. We had an interesting data point from our social studies department who we attempted to try to get to take the lead around annotation and critical reading. It's really hard to read complex text. We all know this. So we are trying to teach kids how to read complex text, no matter what text gets put in front of them, right? So reading some very old text from the foundations of our country, or whether it's reading cell phone bills, those are both complex texts you have to understand, you have to be able to take apart just in case you have some things violated. Go to the next one. So our growth between data point 2 and data point 3 was less, right? We saw a very big boom. End of year for goal 1, we saw 76% of our students meeting standard. For goal 2, and goal 2 is focusing on freshmen and sophomores, we saw 82% of our students meeting standard. So here is some ahas and some takeaways from it. The feeling was the rationale between why we did not see a much larger growth from between data point 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 was that the scaffolding for the third assessment was at the student's choice to use, right? So before that, it was you need to use the scaffolding, you need to use these graphic organizers, you need to use this vocabulary, these vocabulary methods. Here's our reading methods. On the third benchmark, they wanted to see what kids could do, what tools they would use, how they would perform in a real life. It is the real life setting. So that's one hypothesis and one thing that they're going to keep in place. Really important for the professionals in the room to really understand how to use the proficiency scales. Like, how do I know a student is meeting standard? And it's not just a check mark anymore. It's got to be like grounded in evidence for the kid they receive feedback. That includes how to unpack a standard into learning targets. So when we have a large standard like this, How do we systematically teach that to kids over a period of time? How do we do that in a similar way? How do we have common assessments across all of our department to make sure we're measuring the same thing? So when we all sit down at the table together, it's not talking apples to oranges and everybody doing something different. And then our results are skewed and not helpful and useful. Next one. Goal 3. So goal 3, I've talked about this quite a bit at our meetings, was really around student perception data around sense of belonging at high school. So to start off, we had really good baseline data, right? 63% of our students felt connected at the beginning of the school year. I was expecting that number to be a lot lower, but that's awesome. That's wonderful. That's a good place to start. So some of our actions that we did. So we partnered with the Association of Washington Student Leaders, who helped us come up with a protocol to engage kids. We started having discussions with our students just about their experiences, what they like, what they'd like to see more of, what they don't like. We created some common lessons around multiculturalism. We created some common lessons around student self-efficacy, some common lessons around strategies for self-reflection. So we had 5 departments who focused on self-reflection, teaching kids how to be reflective on after performance, after an athletic event, after they finish an assignment, and the use of their time management, right? So departments, all these different departments have these different obligations to teach kids how to be really reflective on what they're doing, right? As their little brains are forming, they also need to be reflective on, like, how am I doing? What am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? And then the teacher would provide them feedback on what they're seeing, and they'd have a really nice conversation, and that's about growth. We also set some actions up to have some interventions for our most struggling kids. Next slide. Okay, so lots of words on this. I'm going to boil it down for you. We had a 51% improvement regarding student self-reflection abilities. So the departments, fine and performing arts, CTE, physical education, world languages, all had a self-reflection rubric they aligned to a proficiency scale for everybody to be on the same page about what good self-reflection is. You can identify a specific area for growth. You can identify a specific area for strength. You set a plan for what you want to do in the future. That's the essential model. So across all 1, 2, 3, 4 of those departments, we had an average of about 51% of students making improvement on their self-reflection activities. And the hope is that they start thinking about their actions, and they start thinking about how their behaviors impact their learning and how their behaviors might need to change as they mature so that they make better decisions in the future, right? So, and this is a way for us to teach kids that. Some other highlights is, and this is something that was amazing, Ashton helped out with this and he did a great job, but we held our first multicultural night, right? We have so many different cultures represented in our district, so many different cultures. And it was awesome to see kids who typically don't engage in school in an after hours event where people came out, families came out, and that was really powerful. Some other highlights, our counseling team served about 15% of our student body who required more than the baseline amount of social emotional skills, we'll say that. So kids who struggled with behaviors, executive functioning, organization, things like that, they intervened with about 50% of our school. And then throughout the year, we held a few targeted school-wide interventions that intervene with another 32%. So that would be our grading interventions. We just finished up an intervention around parent communication and contact. So that sounds silly, but we need to make sure parents have a role in this, and we need to make sure parents understand where their kids are at in education. So parents can put pressure on their kids to hand in their assignments and their homework and all that kind of fun stuff. So that was the focus, is partnering with our community. Our final data. We had 81% of our students claim they feel a sense of belonging at RHS. We have 19% left to go, but it's a really good place for start for next year. Our kids like being at school. And I've shared this to quite a few people. I've had the pleasure of working kind of up and down the I-5 in my career, and Rochester kids are the best kids I've ever been around. They are kind and sweet and truly special. So you have a wonderful community of kids. You've done a great job with these kids up through the years. They know what's right and wrong. They're amazing. And the more we nurture how great they are, the better they will respond. I think that's it. Oh, other notable things. We did some other great stuff. Some more things. So our science, I did 2 highlights here. Our science department, they really focused on units, equations, and graphs. I had an updated slide, but it must have not got,
Sorry.
that's okay. So what you're looking at the graph here, the units, that's out of 10 points, equations is out of 4 points, and graph is out of 4 points. So what they said is that, man, these kids are coming back to us and they're really struggling with some basic algebraic skills to be able to be successful in mathematics. So the science department assisted in that. They assisted in teaching kids unit conversions, equations, and how to graph things appropriately in the science curriculum. 85% of the students met their standard in these 3 areas across all science grade levels. The last one I'll highlight is our mathematics. So this is something that's really important to another district initiative, which is universal design for learning. Universal design for learning, a key component of that is for kids to apply skills in a real life setting. Anybody can recite something, but to actually apply their learning in a real setting is something completely different. They use a demonstration of learning model, which they showed that 87% of their kids could explain learning using a demonstration of learning model. And what that means is not a paper pencil test, some other way for them to demonstrate that they understand the concept. So they can build an actual model, they can have a verbal conversation, they can have Ms. Bex, do you remember anything else that you did in there?
She does a DOL, which is a demonstration of learning. And I don't really do presentations, but you can do really anything. And you choose your own equations. I'm in calculus. And you just have to show how every single step on how you solve the equation, and you explain it. And it really does help. I do appreciate the one test once in a while, but the DOLs really help me remember and then keep it in my brain
right
afterwards.
And the hope is this, that we have to build some stepping stones for people to take on district initiatives in their class. It's been highly successful for one department. We can now use that department to show other departments how to make this accessible for them. And it's a really good data point that helps us move our district initiatives. I think that's it. Any questions?
We gave all our questions to.
I felt that. I appreciate it. Okay, let's save some. Yeah, that's it.
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, so in February, I reported on winter athletics and I believe a piece of season 3 and season 4. So in fact, there's a little bit of season 4 right there. So one thing you're going to see through the course of these slides is by and large, you're going to see an increase in number across, I think my numbers told me like 98% of our sports. But we had a huge volleyball program, and I'm trying to give you data that reflects how many of those athletes, and of course there's some crossover, are more multi-season sports. So you can see we increased by 17. Boys soccer increased by 19. Season 5, which ended yesterday, and I apologize, I had Coach Young generate a list of performances by kid that I can share and celebrate them by name, but I absentmindedly left them on my desk. But I can share with you. Well, first of all, we had an increase in 7 with the girls of 14, 9 are multi-season athletes, and in the boys, we had an increase of 11 compared to last year. But I can share with you that in the 7th and the 8th grade, there were a small handful in each of those 2 grades that performed 1, 2, or 3 at the district meets, which were Tuesday and Wednesday, or no, Monday and Tuesday, actually. And that's just real promising. And if you had a chance to come out and watch some of those kids perform, it lends itself to some real positive contributions when they do come into the high school. So that's positive. Okay, high school spring sports. So this is a little bit similar to what I just showed you. So baseball had 24 athletes. We didn't get quite as many out this year as we did last year, minus 4. Academically at the WIA, level, they were distinguished team award at 3.3 GPA. Fast pitch, we had 16 athletes. That's how many we had out last year. 7 are multi-sport athletes, and then in baseball, you can see the number there that are multi-sport athletes. Distinguished also at 3.37, and that GPA reflects the varsity average, just so you know. Girls golf had 9 athletes, a few less than we did last year. Real smart group of girls received the outstanding team award at 3.756 GPA. Girls track and field, 17 athletes. So we increased that by 10, and that's really, really positive. In particular, to increase female participation in sports. 10 of those are multi-season sports, and they also were distinguished, earned the Distinguished Team Award at 3.2. Boys track and field, 23 athletes. It's an increase of 7 from last year. 10 of those are multi-season athletes, and they as well received the Distinguished Team Award. Just over a 3.0 GPA. Boys soccer. 40 athletes, that's an increase of 8 from last year, and 15 of those are multi-sport athletes. And again, I'll reference down in the bottom right-hand corner that 52% of spring athletes are multi-season athletes. Okay, so by sport. So we have some all league honors. I will say that the girls' season, if you were to ask any one of them, what might have been some challenges for them this season, they would say just the inconsistencies with hitting. If we were to earn an award in fast pitch, they would probably all agree that it might be runners left on base. And so we just missed some opportunities, and you'll know how baseball and fast pitch can work. Anytime you feel you're in a good spot, somebody could drop a 5 spot on you and you're not feeling as comfortable as you were earlier. And so a lot of those contests, we just missed by 1 or 2 runs, 1 or 2 runs. So first team, junior Sarah Hari, outfield. She's going to be back. She weighs about 98 pounds, but she really puts in a tremendous effort and does a great job in center field. Second team, senior Jessa Lindsay in the infield. I think Jessa, although slightly bigger than Sarah, she brings some tenacity in the 6-hole and on the baseball diamond, and a little bit of sass, and I can appreciate that. But she's a good humored gal, and we're going to miss her. Sophomore Cheyenne Justice, also second team honors in the outfield. Lena Demers, sophomore, our pitcher. She was week 34 WA Athlete of the Week. And when you think right now, last year and this year, about Rochester fast pitch, you can't help think about how Lena brings it. And she can be real difficult to hit. And she's powerful, and she's all in. She's really put the time in to be exceptional. Some honorable mention candidates are elected people. Sophomore McKenna Vassar in the infield, and sophomore Macy Flush, our catcher. We just missed this year making it into district. We started playing a little bit more consistently later in the season, and we earned an opportunity for a play-in game to the district tournament, and fell by 4 points to WF West. So we just missed, but there were a lot of good things that happened. So we did land fifth overall in the league. Baseball. First team, junior Tate Hornstrom, infield. The first teamer, senior Braden Hartley, outfield. First team, junior Mason Ubius in the outfield. First team, senior Hyde Parrish, utility player. You can put him anywhere. He did a great job on the bump for us this year. And second team, junior Hayden Pietris, our catcher. So there's a couple, 3 of them there that are going to be back next year, and you can expect them to do big things as well. Honorable mention, senior Brady Baird and freshman Ethan Rodriguez. And so we took We took third overall in our league and made the district bracket, and then fell in the first two games. One was really close, the other one not so close, but then that ended our season. But it was good baseball to watch. If you got a chance to watch them, they're exciting and they can be explosive at a moment's notice. And so knowing that really adds to the game. Boys soccer. So we had one league acknowledgement and sophomore Ezra Aliff, our goalkeeper. What I would say about soccer this year, you'll remember last year, we had a great run last year. We were senior heavy with some talent. We made the district playoffs. But we graduated a wealth of skill. And as you see come through teams, this was really a building year. We've got some young people in there, some underclassmen that are talented. And, they just need to grow bigger, faster, stronger next year. And, we'll take our warrior message back to the soccer league. Girls golf, this is really exciting. This finished up this week, but we, for the first time in the history of Rochester High School, had two individuals get to the state tournament east of the mountains. These two women right here and junior Izzy Macias and junior Audrey Williams, last year, they both made the district tournament. So there's some growth here. They both made the district tournament. Audrey didn't shoot well enough to make day two, but Izzy did last year, but didn't shoot well enough to get out. And so here's the growth with both of those, that they both shot well enough to see day two in district and shot well enough to make the state golf tournament, and performed well over there, but just missed the cut. Just missed the cut for day two. Track. League champions, we have three of those. Ashton Rodriguez in the 100-meter, second best 100-meter time in our high school's history at 11.03 seconds. Emily Weddle in the shot put, returned again this year for championship at the league level, and senior Erica Schuen in the 100-meter ambulatory was also a league champion. So tomorrow, Erica and Ashton will be running up at Mount Tahoma, and Ashton will be running his preliminary at 11 o'clock, and Erica will be running at 11:35. So I know your Fridays are all busy, but if you have a little time off and you're in Tacoma, you might swing in.
Kevin, can you say a word about the ambulatory? Is that new?
No, it's well, you know what, I can't give you the history of it. So ambulatory, it's a para event is what it is. And then they have different categories for that. There's a wheelchair division. There's some intellectual function division, and it's really broken down, but that's the ambulatory, meaning this is an individual who competes independent of a wheelchair.
And are they competing in every meet? Like, does every meet have events
She
for them?
competed all year long. There were two others from our league, two gentlemen from Aberdeen, and they're just another track athlete out there doing their thing. But they have their actual own event when it comes to those qualifying meets to get into state. So that's real exciting. And here's what's unfortunate. I'm well over 8 minutes. Robert told me hurry up. You have to post a qualifying mark in the district tournament. And Friday morning last week, she came to school, and before I knew it, Mr. Smith was holding her hair back and she was thrown up in a garbage can and had to go home. So I immediately got on the phone with Justin Kefterson at the WIA level and said, hey, here's her situation. And so they were willing to pass her through to state with her sub-district mark. So that was exciting. So she's thrilled. She's thrilled. We're going to have a send off in the morning at about 7:50. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So just some celebrations. I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation that about 90% of our 90% let's see, increased participation, 98% of our athletic programs. The total of all league accolades across the year, we had 12 first teamers, 11 second teamers, and 16 honorable mention. Here's a real exciting piece too, a state level comparison. There's 62 2A schools statewide. WA has a Scholastic Cup. And every time I put in our varsity GPAs, it does its own calculation with some sportsmanship involved with that. And these are our rankings in the whole 2A state. Our girls bowling is in second place, girls swimming in third place, and girls golf 8th place. And I will close before any questions today, letting you know that we do have a great group of kids here in this district. 4 times this year across, it was the fall and then the winter season, I received emails from parents really commending the behaviors of our athletes and other people's gyms. And it's real heartwarming. It doesn't come as a surprise to me because I interact with these kids all the time. But they just demonstrated and presented themselves well and represented Rochester in the community really, really well. So you need to hear that. Any questions?
Like to say thank you and congratulations and let all the kids know and the ones that are going to Tacoma, root them on.
Yeah, I'll do that.
It's an achievement to get to that state level, especially running track. There are hundreds of kids up there.
Yeah,
And all the events. So wonderful news coming out of COVID. To have as many kids. Team, second team. Our league.
Real solid. It's real solid.
Yes, absolutely. Very much.
Okay, thank you. Yep,
Thank you, Kevin.
you're welcome.
Your turn.
Will's a little taller than me, apparently.
We can't see my papers when they're that tall.
So from April to May, our FTE stayed pretty steady at 2,050. And our head count was 2,112. We had 60 running start participants and 29 of those are running start only. Heart dropped a kid to 34 FTE. Sped count increased a little to 331, and there are 4 kids currently participating in the dropout re-engagement program at UVSC. So the next one is just those K-12 counts and a visual. In the current school year is kind of in the middle there in the red. So we are still moving in the right direction.
And not seeing a decline that we have.
Nope, we haven't hit that decline yet. And hopefully we won't, because there's only 1 month left. So that's, we'll just keep steady. The all fund summary, at the end of April, our general fund balance was just over 2.2 million, capital projects at 3.6 million, debt service at 728,000, ASB at 536,000, and transportation vehicle at 151,000. And next year we should be able to buy a bus. Ordered.
Yeah.
But it takes, like everything, it takes a year or more to get here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't quite afford it yet, right?
Yeah.
A little bit more coming, so.
So for budget status at the end of April, our fiscal year is 67% of the year complete. Our revenues are at 71%, and you'll see that local revenues are at 106%. And that's because we received our second lump sum of levy money. So we won't receive a lot more of local revenue for the rest of the year, and expenditures are at 70%. And the last one just shows a little more detail of the ending fund balance for the general fund. 423 is restricted for carryover. The 1.5
516 is restricted to the local sub-fund, and that's the levy payment we received, and 311 towards the fund balance policy. And then the last thing I just wanted to touch on is I had sent you all an email, but if you ever had an opportunity to look at it, we had our exit conference for the state audit on Monday. They looked at the financial statements and federal program requirements. They looked at our ESSER dollar spending and our federal special ed grants. And both were clean opinions. They have no findings or management letters. So that report will likely be issued next week.
The auditor was very complimentary of Jill and the work of the team, so.
It helps when you were an auditor previously. Know what to expect. Any questions?
Nope.
Yes.
Yeah.
28,000.
With our business reports. Superintendent report.
Yep, so just a few updates. The first thing that I've included here, you just look at these, I think there's 3 slides here. These are signs that our kids in the business class at the high school are making for Swede Day. And the Swede Day committee had reached out and said, after kids, if they would be willing to do it, we're going to use the big new sign printer that was purchased last year. And you will start seeing these signs out and about town soon, and all the cars in the parade where they needed a sign, like the Swede Day Future Court, will have a sign that the kids will have made. It was decided that the kids, so the students who designed each of the signs that are printed will have their names, kind of like the author's or the artist's signature in the corner. They'll be able to sign it so they know that they did those signs. But been a fun project for the kids, and Bridget Morris has done a great job working with the kids there. The next thing is just a few pictures of the play. That happened right after our last board meeting, Goldie, the Untold Story. It was an original a play or musical written by Doug West's wife. I don't know her name. I don't remember her name. Elizabeth. There we go. Mrs. West. Yes. It's an enjoyable show, and the kids did a great job. Next, we had the multicultural night that you heard referenced a few times, and it was an amazing night. There were a lot of people who showed. All of our administrators were there. We had a lot of teachers there, but more importantly, we had families from throughout our community who came, and their food was served, and food from many different cultures were served. And I tasted some new things on that evening. We had Dan, is it Dan from Dan Penn was there with his daughter, and they were showing some of just tribal artifacts, and then his daughter explained how they dig up the camas flowers to make it into kind of a paste that they use, which was really interesting. But there were dancers. The young lady up in the top right, I should know her name, Grace Morgan. There we go. Thank you, Maggie. Maggie had a lot to do with this night being a success, but it was a wonderful evening. And all of the newcomers at the high school level had tables of their own where they had done display boards. And as people walked around, the newcomers explained to anybody who was willing to talk to them a little bit about the country that they came from. And they did it in English. But you could tell they struggled a little bit, but boy, they did a great job sharing, and we're excited to be able to talk to people and share information about where they were coming from. So it was a wonderful night. We're already talking about how we can make it happen again next year. Highly capable family night that took place 2 weeks ago now. Yeah. That's the cafeteria at Grand Mound, and it was packed. Maggie, do you want to say just a little bit about?
Super excited about it. So this was the first time we were able to hold our annual family night for our students in the highly capable program since 2019. We had, I think, probably over 120 people there. Alicia Hegelberg, our highly capable teacher, along with Megan Baker, who worked with the highly capable students first period of middle school, had gotten their kids ready to do some presentations. They all worked on passion projects. So there's presentations, there's problem solving. We talked about services for next year, and we ate some pizza.
It was a hot evening and it was a packed gym, but it was a really good night. Then when shortly after that, I think maybe the next day even, or the day before, I don't remember the order.
Before.
There was a dual language information night at the kindergarten. Thomas was actually there with the fire truck. But I don't know, not all the kindergarten families, but I think about 70, probably about 70 kindergarten families were there. They were able, the whole family had dinner. So the kids, the kindergartners, the soon to be kindergartners were able to go up and get their milk and get their tray and then go over. And I don't know who thinks it's a good idea for kindergarten and younger to be taking the tweezers and getting their apples with the tweezers. I mean, you know what I'm talking about? Oh my gosh. But they make it happen, right? So that's the tongs. Thank you, tongs, tweezers. Anyway, it was great to see the kids, you know, that they came in, they got their food, they were able to sit down, they learned about how to empty their the milk that they didn't drink out in a container so that it doesn't all go in the garbage cans and make it hard to lift up the garbage bags and things like that. So all, you know, it was what the kids are going to need to do when they come to school next year. And so then they went on the other side of the gym and learned about the dual language program. And so the dual language program is an option for families. And but there are 70 families there who learned about that option. You can see Alana Ramirez, who's one of the teachers. She's going to be teaching the Spanish language side of the instruction. She got all of the kindergartners who were there. So 70 kids were sitting in front of her in that picture there to the left. And she was teaching them math. And the kids engaged and they were learning math and they ended up counting in Spanish. And, you know, they were learning in Spanish right there in front of everybody's eyes. It was a wonderful evening. The next slide shows you just a little bit about where we are with the program now. So applications for the program closed on Friday the 19th. We're doing 2 sections of the dual language program. So that means we have about 40 seats is what we're looking at. There were 18 native Spanish speakers, 22 native English speakers, for a total of 46 total enrolled. So we have plenty to do the program. We know that there's actually more who are still wanting to be added to the list, but we are filling the course now with the people who applied on time, and there will be a wait list. Once all the final decisions have been made, families will be asked to accept their enrollment, and then it shouldn't say assign, but it should say sign a commitment form so that they are making a commitment to the program. We're asking them to commit up through 5th grade. We know that the impact of the program is fully benefits them learning both Spanish and English up at 5th grade. If they stop early, they will be missing out and there will be gaps, which if that's where we need to be, we'll be filling them, but we would prefer they stay in the program all the way through. So it's a good program. It's off to a great start. Yeah.
Is that a typo, the native English speakers?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes.
You said it right, but I.
Okay. This is just another picture of some of those athletes that Kevin just got done sharing with you and explaining, you know, talking about and telling you about the wonderful season our kids have had this spring. And then I wanted to let you know we have a long range facilities task force. It's meeting this next Wednesday, so the 31st. And you can see the people who are on that committee. I think we have a full slate there. I do have one spot that if somebody was calling me and saying, hey, I really wanted to be on that, we will, we do have one more seat there available, but I feel good about the committee that's there. We have parents with kids, element or primary all the way through high school that are on the committee. We have community members who just are here and have a business in the community, a business in the community, all the way to people who used to have kids in the district and don't anymore, or who were teachers or used to be employees in the district but aren't anymore. Everybody here, everybody on the committee is not directly working in the district now, nor do they have a spouse that's working in the district. So these are truly people that are not connected to their schools because of being employed in the schools. So again, first meeting is on the 31st, and we'll keep you updated with what's going on. Graduations. So my question, this is, well, soon it's going to be a question for you, but we have 2 graduations coming up. The first one is June 9th. That's the Hart graduation. And the kids decided that they want to have it right out here in the back in the park. And so Justin and Kevin have done a great job working on getting a tent that the kids will have for cover. We'll have a sound system, and we're planning for just over 100 people. And we will hold graduation right out back for Hart at 6 o'clock on June 9th. I think it's going to be a wonderful occasion. And it makes my heart warm that that's where the kids wanted to do it. They didn't want to go to the high school. They didn't want to go to the middle school. They want to do it right here. We do have the middle school ready to go as a backup if we need it. So
It is much more.
yes, it is. And then as you might remember, we have high school graduation on June 11th, and that is at St. Martin's, and that starts at 2 o'clock. We talked about board members going and more than just Neil, not leaving Neil alone on the stage and having more board members up there on stage. So my question to you tonight is who is planning on going or would like to go and sit on the stage? And if you are sitting on the stage, then we need for you to have a gown, graduation gown. So you want me to ask you again after the meeting, or?
Well, I'm going.
You're going to be on stage, aren't you?
Yeah.
These kids are graduating.
All right, Thomas is on the list. Neil's on the list.
It's very hot on that stage. I learned. I showed up in a 3-piece suit. I told him, no, you gotta go over
Okay, so
here.
Michael won't be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Either one of them.
So what you're saying is
Yeah,
we
okay,
don't wear
okay.
a suit. then?
Wear shorts and a t-shirt.
No.
Put on this big smock.
Yeah.
A big gown. And it's hot. And there's at least 100 lights on you on the stage.
So I got
Pick a
Thomas.
warm place.
Thomas and Neil are for sure. And Thomas, do you want to join us at the Hart graduation as well, or just at
I'm not
the?
sure if I can be at that one,
Okay,
so.
so we'll count on you for RHS.
Yes.
And then
Yep.
if you want to make the other one, you will have a gown. Are we wearing? No gowns, okay. The other question I have for you is the July board meeting. It's scheduled for the 12th of July. I want to just check with you to make sure that we have quorum that night and we don't have a bunch of people traveling.
Yeah, I'm fine.
You're fine, okay?
I should go.
You should be good,
I'm out of town on 12th.
okay?
I'm probably gonna be attending Lakers that week and I have committee there.
Okay, Thomas? What do you quorum?
It might not, from what we talked about earlier, I might not be able to,
Okay,
yes,
Maybe a different day.
so if we went to.
it's possible,
Yeah,
not sure.
okay, and I get that.
Yep.
But I know that I have 3 who wouldn't be able to be here for, 2 who wouldn't be able to be here for sure, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and Thursday night, or Wednesday night, sorry. Wednesday night, the 12th, Neil, you wouldn't be able to make it?
Not telling me like that.
It probably will be a very short meeting. We will need to have the business meeting to do things that we need to approve.
I'll be here on the 12th. I'll make sure I'm here.
You could be here on the 12th?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're good moving forward on the 12th, then we have quorum. Because we have 2 people, not because we have 4. Okay, all right, so we're gonna keep it on the 12th. I think is there anything else there, Justin? Oh, just some upcoming events. So on the 31st, which is this next Wednesday, the same night, we have the long-term or the task force for the long-range facilities committee. We also have multilingual learners family night for those students who are in the program. That's over at the middle school. It's going to be a big evening again, probably 200 people. So if you want to come and engage in some of the activities there, you're more than welcome.
Enchiladas this time.
Enchiladas, there we go. All right. Also, just want to remind you, the retirement reception is on the 8th. It's at Grand Mound at 3:45. We have senior awards on the 8th at 6 o'clock. That's at the high school. Our graduation, the high school graduation, and then the last day of school is on the 13th. And that is what I have to share, unless there's any questions. All right.
All right, superintendent's report is now over and now we're on. Yeah, okay. At this point in time, anybody that would like to leave, you're more than welcome to leave. Just gotta do board business now at this point.
You're more than welcome to stay.
You're more than welcome to stay if you want, but you might be able to enjoy the last half hour of the sunshine and the sunset.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, Ashton.
Have a great
Thank you, guys.
evening.
Thank you for your graduation. It's been a pleasure meeting everyone. Thank you for all the thanks.
Oh, Alex,
Oh,
slide should not to stand, but take slide, not stand. That's your thing.
well, beggars can't be choosers.
Thanks, Ed.
Yeah.
Have a great night.
Right, want to take a quick break, but.
Yeah, maybe let's take a break for a 5-minute break.
Yeah, let's take 5.
Okay.
Do 5. Well, I needed 5.
Break and we'll be back at 8 o'clock.
I've been eyeballing those Browns.
Right. Well, let's go wait. You're back? Yep. All right. I'm not gonna come in next soon, right?
No.
Okay, sounds good to me. All right, next up, is our. Pull it up, back out of that. Our out of endorsement assignment resolution. Would you speak to this?
This is just an update on the resolution that allows us to have teachers who are teaching out of their endorsed area. Anything to add, Joe? No. We have to, the board has to approve this for any teachers that we ask to not, they're asked to be to teach it, even just a class out of their endorsed area.
The highlighted ones, just additions to already approved list.
Correct, yes.
These are similar to what we've been going through with our COVID years, where we were trying to get as many teachers in here to do as much as we possibly could. So I guess, would like to make a motion to approve assignment of unendorsed teachers.
So moved.
There a second?
I'll second it.
All right.
Any discussion?
Any discussion? About those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None? All right, motion's passed. Now we move on to new business. We have a whole bunch of stuff here. We have to do these individually also, correct?
Yes.
All right. All right, so under new business, administrative collective bargaining agreement. Or anything that we'd like to be said about this?
I have just quick updates on what the changes were in these, if you'd like to hear them. So first of all, there's two agreements that we're bringing forward for your approval. They've been ratified by each of the unions. The Teamsters is the first one. They've agreed to a contract that would go from September 23 through August 26, which is nice. Some of the key changes that we've agreed to in it, there's language about vacation days. It used to be 20 or more years. What the heck was I doing when I was writing this? I don't know. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, no. This is right. I'm right. I'm okay.
Depending on the writing.
So one of the areas was if we are now saying that an employee who has 20 or more years of experience in the district, they would be eligible for 24 vacation days. The previous language was when they had 10 to 14 years in the district, they had 20 days of vacation, and 15 or more received 22 days of vacation. So altered it just a little bit so that now somebody with 20 or more can have 24 vacation days. We also made a change that says that with supervisor approval, that on the days when, or on weeks when school is not in session, for instance, in July, an employee could work 4 days for 10 hours a day. And yes, yeah. So they, look at me, gosh, I'm telling you. It's not a 10-hour week, 4 days for 10 hours, 10 hours each day. So the 4 10s. They would have to have supervisor approval. So that means Ed would have to approve that that was something that could be, they could get their work done in that time setting. Personal leave, they're not going to be able to accumulate up to 8 days. That mirrors the other 2 contracts now. There's also update in the progressive discipline language, clarifies what we already do. So we didn't have a problem adding that. And then we made some changes to the grievance procedure so that there's actually a timeline and the numbers of days about each step along the process, how many days a person would have to come forward and grieve something, how many days they have to, how many days do we have to get back to them, and do they have to get back to us, those types of things. That there wasn't a timeline in there, so now there is a timeline in the process. And then the final thing we talked about briefly previously was that we've adjusted the pay scale using comparables, so that especially our custodians their salaries are comparable to other surrounding districts.
those were the key changes. There's other small little things, but those were the big things there. And then, go ahead, did I see a question?
Yep. So, So, when you're talking about grievance procedure, included, does that specify work days, not
Yes,
weekend?
yes.
Because a weekend's not gonna count.
We have clarified it. Most of the times we have said it's work day or business day.
Yeah.
But, and I think we moved everything to a business day, didn't we? I think we took all of the just calendar days out, so.
Is that how the contract language has to state? Is it a business day or
It
work
just-
day or
You just need to clarify one or the other.
one or the other?
Mhm.
And I'm totally lost on that with supervisor approval. Is that during the summertime? Is that
Yes.
what we're talking about?
Basically during summertime, I suppose if they wanted to come forward and do something at like winter break or something, they could, but really what we're looking at is that would be July is really the only time we see that probably being utilized.
So a teacher.
No, these are Teamsters, so this is custodial maintenance.
Oh, okay, good. And that's why I saw Teamsters, but I'm like, I thought we were talking.
No,
Okay,
yeah,
that's why I'm like, okay, I'm like, wow.
yep, no, good.
Is there a distinction between personal leave and vacation?
Yes. They have two, all of our Teamsters, well, and actually all of our staff district-wide have 2 personal days that they're granted per year. They can accumulate those days up to 8. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the other contract is with our ESP, which is our EAs, our secretaries, our clerks. That's all of them, right? This again is a contract that will go from September 23 through August 26. Some of the changes here. We clarified placement on the staff salary schedule. So that we know when they enter, where they go on the salary schedule. Employees shall be given a minimum of 1 day notice before their assignment is changed or before hours are changed. We clarified the leave eligibility for temporary employees. And there was a lot of work around leave, so both for temporary, and then you see sick leave language use was changed. We added grandchildren, not grandparents.
It's already in there. It now mirrors L&I language.
This one does.
Yeah.
But there was a group, somebody, I don't know. Anyway, yes, we mirror the L&I language, which I think is a good way to put it, so that we're not trying to go in between the two. Well, we spoke to the fact that employee missing 5 days may be required to furnish physician's note. Personal leave days can accumulate up to 8. That's a change on this one as well. This is a new piece. An employee with perfect attendance shall earn 1 day of pay for each academic semester, up to 3. No, it should say 2. There's an error again. Boy, up to 2 days a calendar year.
Trying to figure it out.
I'm gonna change that so it's not posted anywhere. But so basically an employee who has perfect attendance for a semester, they earn an extra day of pay. And if they have a perfect attendance for the second semester, they would get a extra day of pay.
First semester, we would have had 2 people eligible.
That's a really good incentive.
Yeah. Yeah, we thought, and that was their RESP's idea, and we thought it was a good idea as well, so.
Like it.
The missing 5 days for a sick notice,
Mhm.
is that follows L&I language? Because me personally, I'd like to see it less than that. So if somebody's gone 3 days in a row, you need to be providing a doctor's note.
Our other contracts already have the 5 in it, so we did it to mirror them.
Yeah,
Consistency.
and we feel as though we can work with this. Granted, it's nice if we could be 3, but we really feel 5 we can work with that.
And when does a person call out? When can a person call out, say they're not gonna come to work?
We ask for them to do it as soon as they know that they're not gonna be in.
Okay.
So first thing in the morning.
The reason I ask is because we have people who where I work at will call 10 minutes prior to when you normally show up to work, and then that sends a ripple effect because somebody might have to stay over that one's not planning to stay over. Now, I know they don't pull shifts like we do. Okay, but those are the things that irritate me. And I'm sure that is the same way in some way, shape, or form that I would like to see not happen. You know, because you're the boss and you expect your people to show up to work and then they call 10 minutes prior to being at work.
We would like to see people call in as early as possible. Well, there are some situations where it's last minute and, you know, they just aren't gonna make it. They get a migraine and they are not gonna make it. You can't come in and work with kids all day with a migraine. That just doesn't work. But we do ask that they call in. I don't know exactly how many hours before their day starts, but we do ask for them to call in prior to the day starting. And then really when they have a planned absence, if they know they're going to the doctors or something one day, then to call in prior to that day. We cleaned up the due process language, and then the grievance language also now mirrors the REA language. Any other changes that you can think of that I didn't note there, Jill?
Those are the big ones.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, I'm just looking at the Teamsters contract on page 19. What part was that right here? Professional development. Full district funds totaling $10,000 may be set aside each year for the purpose of providing professional development opportunities for bargaining unit members. I would really like to see that we pursue this. So the Teamsters that are represented in our district, they have the opportunity to go and get skill training.
Yeah.
To learn how to hang coat hooks and minimal things that general expectations per se.
This is something that our employees do take advantage of. Ed works with the Teamsters group to make sure that when there are trainings that they should be going to, they're aware of it, they access it, and our employees come forward and ask as well.
One of the first trainings that I did was use that money was scissor lift training. We brought an outside vendor in to certify everybody on the scissor lift, maintenance and custodial. So that's one of the ways that you can use that money.
Sounds great. So if the union is going to have any sort of trainings, is the union rep notifying all the other employees that something's available?
We communicate directly with them. Whenever we ask them to do anything, we always talk with, you know, the in-house liaison and stuff.
Okay.
We're on the same page.
Wonderful. I just really want to make sure that all the employees have that opportunity to expand their capabilities. So, thank you. That's all I got. Anybody else have any?
Do we need to have a class on the covering up of trailers and stuff?
Well, I don't know if we need to have a class, but I have refined the training procedures as we bring employees on board. We're just gonna have a training on just about every piece of equipment, just it helps just get certified and give the checklist, and if anybody has any questions, we can follow up that way.
Excellent.
Limit our liabilities.
Do you have some form of tracking, like where the customer will put their initials or sign that they were trained or they?
Yeah, we have a sheet, like on scissor lift training, everybody gets a certification card. That's an official, but then we have assigned documentation. That's one of the things that the Teamsters gets real involved. Whenever we have people sign something, they want to make sure that that list is approved for them, you know, working with us. So that was one of the first big things we got with the scissor lift training. So just gives us something that we can reference back to 2 years later, 6 months later.
So do we need to make separate motions on these, or yes? Okay. All right. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to approve the RESP contract.
So moved.
Yes, second, all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there any discussion? Those opposed? It passes. And then the next one will be the Teamsters CBA. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Move, the first and second? Both you guys? Okay,
Yes.
all right. How about all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? We got discussion? Discussion? Any opposed?
That's
Okay. So that passed.
Yep.
All right. Next on our list is administration student fee schedule.
These are these. You see this list every year, I believe. So this is the list. You can see where there are changes. There are a few areas where there's changes. But for the most part, it's the same. If you have any questions, we'll certainly provide answers.
I have none this time. Anybody else have any questions about this? I guess we should probably make a motion and then discuss afterwards, right?
Yep, there you go.
All right, how about, is there a motion to approve?
Second.
First and
I'm
seconded.
not sure if he was ready for it or not. I'm not.
All right.
Discussion.
Say, is there any discussion about this?
The Chromebook assurance program,
Yeah.
is that directly related to the cost of this? Is there an assurance program that we pay for? Or is that
No,
just internal?
It's an internal
Just to cover our
assurance,
costs.
assurance program. Yes, costs of things have gone up, parts.
Really?
Yeah, go figure.
Uh,
This is the first time in 4 years. that
Yeah.
We've increased the cost, so.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, the pay to play. We keep the fee on there, but we just keep saying wait, like,
Wait.
we're not gonna do it.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, fully supports. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no more questions. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. And next on our list is delegating authority to the WIAA. For athletics.
Kevin, you want to speak to this real quickly? Yes, the mayor has.
What's that?
Do you want to speak to this real quickly or?
This just gives delegation of WIA to oversee our interscholastic activities. So your grades and your eligibility, really. I think what else?
Rules.
Yeah, rules. And in the what's the if we weren't having WIA do that, then it'd be something that we would do at the local level through the district. But essentially just making sure that we're playing by the rules and we're holding kids accountable.
Also allows us to know that everybody we compete with is on the same page.
If we didn't agree to this, we wouldn't be able to play.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point in time, is there a motion to approve delegating authority to the WIAA?
Second.
First and seconding. All right, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Next on our list is athletic and activities code. Different one.
Kevin?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, I proposed that we adopt the WIA academic minimum for academic eligibility. And at that time, the spirit behind my proposal was because we were coming off our remote years in COVID. Student athletes were learning how to be students again in the classroom, how to interact with their peers again. And that they felt that at that point that they were at a disadvantage and would benefit from some leniency in the ability to play with a single app. I now believe, and I am monitoring grades, I am monitoring grades, through the course of the year. And what I'm beginning to see is that I'm beginning to see with some that there's a level of complacency occurring. And that some students, instead of wanting to work to pass all classes, are getting comfortable with carrying a single app. And I have conversations with them and share that, that's not who we are. That's not who we want to be. We want to be academics first. And I think, in 2 years, we're at a point right now where kids have learned to be students in the classroom and learn in that environment. And I propose that the board consider going back to our no F status for participation. I've also had, kids are smart. I've had some conversations with students that, I approached them, hey, you brought your F up, they'll do last minute, get their grade up so that they're eligible. And then to watch it fall back down and let them know that, hey, but we want to get them all cleaned up. They've already done the calculation that, well, I don't need to pass that class anyway. I have enough credits to do that. So there's this complacency that I'm finding, and not for all. Some you can give the stink eye in the hallway, and that grade's changed by the end of the day. And others have make a calculated decision to stay in that ability to be eligible academically. And I don't see that as across the board being as healthy as it once was.
Question, how often are you looking at their grades? Is it a weekly process that you look at it?
It is a weekly process. Our language is that first grade check and exercise in the previous semester rule, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. Is in that third week in the beginning of the sports season. However, I do create systems through Skyward where myself and each head coach in that season is getting a grade report that generates at 2 a.m. Monday morning. So it's right for them for the poll. That way we have a number of sets of eyes on this, and we're able to address students who are needing some support across the board. So yes, it is generated weekly.
That was my next question was, is there support in bringing the teachers and all the other academic staff together to help these kids get their grade levels up?
Yeah, I encourage coaches to be a part of that, but at the same time, at the high school level, I'm wanting students to advocate for themselves as well. And certainly I'm a part of that. I see a teacher in a hallway, hey, what can we do with this kid? I'm having this student. I encourage my coaches to make plans to allow for the first part of turnout, students who are needing some support to make a schedule and go to that teacher for part of that turnout so we can get a grade turned around. So yeah, we're connecting kids with the right people. And a lot of times it seems as though it can be a single assignment that keeps a kid in a less than passing status. And sometimes it really comes down to just simply doing the work. Anyway, that's what I'm seeing.
So Kevin, you're looking for approval that the students, if they're failing one or more courses, they would be ineligible to participate.
They would be ineligible with a single F in that first, so let's just, for example, say on a Monday, just, grades are generated and the student has a failing grade. That week is a probation. You've got this week to get this up. If it's still there the next week, you're ineligible for contest.
And if they failed one F the previous semester, like right now for next fall, what happens?
Well, so the WIA standard is 2 or more.
Right.
2 or more, and there's another little bit of a proposal here that there's a piece there that we adopted for this year that has to do with fall athletics only. So last year I proposed that there had some changes at the WIA level with their scholastic piece, and so what they chose to do, so the previous semester rule is essentially addressing how a student did academically in the semester prior to that sport they're participating. And what once was that if a student, an example, a fall sport, you take a football player, and in spring, that semester they had 2 or more Fs. And so the first 5 weeks of that fall sport, they were ineligible for contest. They since had come back to the table last year and talked about, and I share this same view, and I've shared it openly, that in my years in education at the high school level, I've seen such strong maturity that can happen in the summer with some students. And if our idea is to really keep kids engaged and get them participating, it's really, really defeating to that kid who reflects on their spring. I've seen the biggest changes between the sophomore and the junior year. Reflects on that spring and says, I really messed up. I need to change things. I want to be active in my school. I want to improve my grades. I want to go out for this sport. And then they're staring at 5 weeks of ineligibility. We may lose that kid. So what WIA has in place now is they call it an academic intervention. So essentially that kid who fell down in the spring would be placed on a probation until that 4th week in September. And if their grades are in good shape, then they face no suspension. If they are still not towing the line academically, they've kind of relocated that 5-week suspension. So it's giving a kid a chance to show us that you want to do this and you want to be here. And those kids, I will say this, across 2 buildings and 9 sports last fall, there were only 8 individuals that were in that situation. And by week 4 in September, everybody was passing everything. So there were no suspensions. And I just hate a kid to talk themselves out of not coming out and being part of athletics in their school, because they're looking at a suspension to start school year.
Good. Right, well, at this point, is there a motion to approve the athletic activities code?
So moved.
Second,
I'll second it.
all right, some discussion. Kevin, we're talking a lot about athletics, but this is also clubs and drama and everything else. It looks like I'm reading this correctly. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it would. And I guess my hesitation was, my eyes are on the athletics piece.
Right.
Right.
So if we go back, I mean, are the Mr. West and are the other folks on board with this?
That's a great question, Mike. I'm not sure necessarily where that oversight lies for the clubs and activities is, and maybe that deserves some discussion.
It says, when it says in scope here, it hasn't listed, so I think they're in there, right?
Yep.
is this maybe something we should table till the next meeting? We could get more information.
We could, but I think we can put a system in place, so we're sure we're holding the kids accountable in all of our activities.
It's in place in the past, so.
Yeah, it's reverts back to what we did before, right? Which I'm very comfortable with. I just should have.
Yep.
They're all informed. I just.
Since it fits the same motive, right? We're trying to get
Yes, my kids
engaged,
engaged.
whatever they want.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do.
Idea. Yeah.
Exactly. I just don't see that the problems that we were probably having with other class where we're working about the iReady program and the testing. These kids are engaged. They want to participate. They want to be part of the school sports. So they're already engaged in a different avenue moving forward. And the same thing with the other programs. They're engaged in other school activities. I can see where they would continue to want to pursue at least passing, if not becoming highly capable with the GPAs that I was seeing earlier with the different sporting teams. It's like, wow, that's incredible to have a bunch of kids that are 3.8, 3.6, 3.4. I'm like, that's impressive.
Yeah, we have some student athletes do a really nice job, balancing that extracurricular with their academics, and it shows.
Okay.
Coming on the probation, can a student athlete be on probation potentially multiple times during a season? Got probation on Monday, they get fixed by.
Potentially, yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, they're struggling in another class, being the same class.
And that's, I think that's the level of scrutiny that needs to happen to hold the kids accountable, that, we love having athletics and it's a great avenue, but we're an academic institution.
And who lets them know that is that your job, that you let them know that they're on probation, or is that?
Oh, I see them
coach for that?
I see them, coaches address it. So they know, and like I say, so many of them, when they know that their eyes on this, it gets cleaned up. I mean, it really does. But yeah, they get it from all over, and and I've reached out to parents too, just so that, we're collective and united in the effort. Let's keep Sally and Johnny eligible.
All right. Well, I guess at this point, is there any more discussion about this? Move to a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion is approved. Next, more athletics. I believe we are now to
Yeah,
coaching education plan.
people just want me to go away today. I know. So, I can't take credit for all this. I was part of the discussion. We have had discussions around the coaching education. So WIA requires paid and volunteer coaches every 3 years to satisfy hours in professional development education. So we sat down and had some discussions as a district, which means, the greater St. Helens in the south as ADs, and started taking a look at ways, because everybody's trying to find ways to save some money. And when coaches have to do their concussion management, and their sudden cardiac arrest, and the general rules clinic and sports specific rules clinic, WIA has a strong relationship with NFHS, which is National Federations of High School. So, but National Federations of High Schools also has all kinds of modules of education. And so when we talk things through, I wrote these down because I always forget which four there are. So you have to satisfy so many hours in the areas of medical aspects of coaching, legal aspects of coaching, psychosocial, emotional foundations of coaching, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so you can also, so there's ways to satisfy these. You can go to the coaches school that's offered every year, and that costs money. You can take the National Federation of High Schools coaching principles or coaching fundamentals, and that costs money. And I think for an initial coach coming in year 2, that's a good avenue. But I think by having coaches take some of the modules under these categories through NFHS, which are free, and as long as they're board approved, it does satisfy what WI is looking for within professional development and coaches education. So my proposal is in lieu of the coaches school, which costs the coaching fundamentals and principles, which costs, is to get coaches on a schedule. And of course, they're responsible for doing these things, but I don't think that this can be successful without me stepping in and being some oversight here and creating some systems of tracking. But what would it allow for? There's a potential then to save money and not have to have a coach attend every 3 years the coaches school or the NFHS coaching principles and fundamentals. Rather they could use the money that paid coaches are allotted. I would like to see this. Each coach receives money each year. I would like coaches to utilize that money for that opportunity where they network with other coaches and somebody says, hey, you know what, there's an absolute great clinic put on by so-and-so at the University of Washington, and use those monies to go attend those specific kinds of clinics. And by utilizing this model, they would be able to satisfy their coaching education through this process.
All right. Anyone would like to make a motion to approve the coaching continue education growth plan?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All right. Time for any discussion? I have one question. So these classes, these are paid for by the school district, correct?
The coursework in these here that you see listed under these categories, medical aspects of coaching, legal aspects, those are free.
Those are free. Okay.
Those are free. And that's the idea. They provide the accepted education under the eyes of WIA, and it's an opportunity to save some money long term, but also gives coaches an opportunity to spend that money more specifically for something that they want to attend to benefit their program.
Yeah. So see under D here, we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion, the DEI stuff. That is a very large topic with the state of Washington in all aspects. And I really want to make sure that all the coaches have a full understanding of what the state requirements are. So that's my main goal. When I look at all these, it's like mental health, instructional, it's like same kind of training that all of us have to attend, state requires. So I want to find out what the WIAA standard was. But who's our rep on the board for that? WIAA group?
It was supposed to be me, but I never got to any information. We'll blame it on Shauna not providing me with the proper information.
Shauna, you make sure you schedule for the next 3 weekends.
Yeah.
Next 3 weekends, that's right.
It'll be my pleasure.
Watch out,
I know.
Well, you're giving us some communication.
All right. Thank you, Thomas. I wasn't sure.
No, I was, but no information ever actually came down on, I think she actually looked for something and nothing ever came. Because when I first started here, that's what I was going to do. And no information ever came down about it. And then we never talk about that. So it's never really been brought up.
I'm pretty sure they'll know your name now. So hopefully you'll get some engagement here soon, and that way.
There's not a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure there's not a whole lot. I was like looking at the instructional stuff for coaches. It's like see a lot of good opportunity here for instruction. For supervising, steroids, this-
Michael had a question.
I did, Kevin, because I really want to support you in this, but I'm lost here a bit. So all these things are down here, some are in green, some are in blue. You're telling us that coaches can access these trainings free through
That's correct.
okay, and now we're paying for them?
Well, so there are two ways there's actually three ways that you can satisfy your coaching education. One, you can attend the coach's school.
Okay, and we pay for that.
And we pay for that.
Okay,
Or if they were to choose to take the coaching fundamentals, coaching principles through NFHS, we would also pay for it.
okay,
But through a combination of these courses through these four categories, there are some freedom monetarily to receive that very same education if it's board approved.
but it's still this NFCA or whatever.
It's still an NFHS, they just don't cost.
Okay, so it's sort of a no-brainer then.
It's kind of the way I saw it.
Okay.
I'm not,
I'm sure I was getting it here.
I'm not the boss.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay. All right. At this point, how about, we've had our discussion, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No, the motion passes, motion approved. All right, next, we are moving on to more athletics, interscholastic activities.
And these are the activities that we have, and we just need approval for that. These will be what we offer next year. And I don't think there's any changes, is there?
No, there's not. I will say that our cheerleading has demonstrated an interest to become part of competitive cheer. And when I've talked to other league athletic directors, there seemingly is nothing necessarily special that happens there other than looking out and networking with other competitive cheer programs and looking for contests and applying to go to those.
So that's not something that they've done around here, competitive, they've never done competitive cheer around here?
Not to my knowledge.
About 15 years ago, we had an attempt at competitive cheer because the competitive cheer adds as a Title IX in order to balance numbers out between boys and girls. We attempted, the teams were not very successful and therefore just went back to cheering.
Sideline.
All right.
Do we not have boys swimming?
No.
We do not. And again, that's some of that the Title IX.
Yeah.
All right, and the shooting club, that's not part of this at all, right? That was still a club activity through the FFA program, correct?
Not, yeah,
Okay. I'll make sure it was.
through ASB, it's not through WIA.
Was it through?
ASB, it's just a club.
ASB club, okay. Sounds good, sounds good. All right. Well, is there a motion to approve our interscholastic activities for 2023-2024?
We'll move.
A second?
Second.
All right. All those in, is there any discussion? Seeing there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? None? Motion's approved. Next, more athletics. RHS ticket prices.
So these are the ticket prices for next year at the high school. Again, I don't believe there's any changes, correct?
No, and I reached out to some other league ADs just to make sure I didn't miss anything in our league minutes. But there was no indication of a change.
This time,
Could we have, sorry, I thought I remembered for veterans and first responders that they were free, was not reduced. Am I remember that wrong?
they were free.
But we have to.
During COVID?
Yeah, it was during COVID. We were all first responders. Medical, fire.
I was just gonna say, yeah,
We don't have the option to alter that.
Well, we did something though, Jill, right? Is it just we lowered it? We didn't.
I agree. We stuck them in the reduced category
Okay, okay. I just remembered it wrong.
because that was the best we could do.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, at this point, is there a motion to approve our ASB ticket and fee schedule?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
on a second. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None were opposed. The motion is approved. All right. Next. All right, we're done with athletics. Okay. All right, we are number H, board first reading of policy 3424.
right, so this is just first reading of the opioid related overdose reversal medication that we would have it available at the high school. We are required to have it at the high school because we are a district over 2,000 in size. The stipulation is that it has to be in the health room. We have to have somebody in the building trained to provide the medication if it's necessary. We have a nurse that is part-time at the high school, and then we have a health clerk or health room clerk who's there in the high school. Those are the people that I believe we would train, but we need to sit down and talk about it. The nurse can train the other people who would be trained in the building. And I think the other thing I would tell you is that we are able to get the overdose reversal medication free of charge at this point.
You want to talk about tonight or we?
Oh,
Tomorrow.
It's up to you guys. I mean, you could ask me questions and then I'll know what answers to get. We can always do that.
I spend a great deal of my day dealing with this. And so my suggestion would be is we get it and we have it in every building. And it doesn't need to be a nurse, just about anybody can do it.
Yeah, as long as they're
And
trained, right?
make sure that we get it out. Because with fentanyl, it's sometimes taken 3 and 4, and I'm sure some of them talk to it. It's sometimes taken 3 or 4 doses to bring them back. But with the number of people we have coming in and out of these buildings, we had a save in our parking lot just a couple months ago. You know, somebody walked through, passed out, one of the employees seen them, went and grabbed it out of the, thing and came right out there and saved their life. So
Okay. Yeah, it stipulates it has to be in an unlocked cabinet.
yeah,
It's very clear. So, all right, maybe what we can do is look at the policy and see if there's anything we need to change to have it available in other buildings. It's the way the policy is written and the way the WASDA wrote is specifically at the high school.
Yeah.
So that would be, maybe we can do a quick.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk to you
Work
offline.
session and,
Yeah.
and then we can update it and that would.
And you didn't say it had to be administered in the nurses?
Nope.
Okay, I thought I heard, that's why I was
Our
like,
nurse can.
I thought I heard you say that. I'm like.
any of us could do it, right?
Part-time nurse.
Okay,
The nurse obviously can administer it and the nurse can train anybody else who we want to be able to administer. So we have to have somebody who's identified to train others to give it. This law stipulates that there has to be at least one person in the building at all times that can administer it.
Yeah, so as I'm reading through this, it's used on school property, including school buses, playgrounds, field trips, sanctioned excursions away from school property. So there's a wide variety. I've personally seen it where the fentanyl stuff is just stupid deadly and multiple people who come in contact with it overdose at the same time. Where there's 3 or 4 people within a 400-yard area, all of a sudden, we have to have medics in the area. I've seen a lot of this in Olympia, it's really horrible, but we should very much be vigilant.
and usually one dose is not gonna help.
Yeah, they talk about a series, I think, in the policy. I don't know this.
Our medics, they all use IV stuff, so it's not,
I don't know.
it's
what
not
this-
the little spray bottle thing. They don't use that.
Okay. I will see if we can have one of our nurses come at the work session.
Yeah.
We could talk to them at that if you wanna.
That sounds great.
Yeah, we could go ahead and approve it for first reading and then make some modifications and then bring it back for the next
We have
meeting.
to approve this, or is this just?
I've always approved them, so we can just do it. That's fine.
We want to approve it, we can
No,
approve
that's
it.
good. You're not approving, you would just be accepting it for first reading,
Okay.
so it does.
Yeah, I'm mistaken.
Yeah.
All right, next on our list, capital project, old gymnasium roof. Would you like to speak to this?
Ed is here as well to speak to this, but so this is for the gym roof. It will be out of capital project funds. We have 3 bids. You can see that Supreme Roof Doctor and the roof. Who was the other one? Wayne. Our recommendation is to go with Supreme. Ed was pleased with their quote and with what they shared about it.
Did 3 roofs for us at the high school. Good projects. They did good follow through. I met with Alfredo today, just following up on how everything went, what they came across. So Supreme would be my recommendation. They are the lowest bid and they are the most thorough bid as far as explaining exactly what they will do, what they hope to achieve.
When could they start? And if we approve this, when could they start?
I have to get with them and see, you know.
Oh, okay.
I would assume relatively soon.
Summer project.
Has that roof, from the time we did the walkthrough, has it got any worse? Okay, because I was driving by this way one day and I saw it looked like one of the gutters was falling off, but I didn't know if that was already there.
And we've had to remove some of the gutters because they're falling down. There's no leaking inside, but unfortunately, there's 4 layers of roof material on that roof.
All right.
Yeah, the rear roof would consist of removing all that material all the way down to the shiplap and then plywooding the entire ceiling to meet today strength codes. So.
All right, school board, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing no discussion, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed? Motion's approved. Next. Project Old Gymnasium asbestos removal.
And that's for the abatement of that same building. We had a couple different people come in and give us quotes. This one was recommended. There is no local abatement company, but this is a relatively close company, but it was highly recommended by a local person. And when they came in, they pretty much substantiated exactly what we were told. They were very thorough. They knew everything that they were doing. The second company that we had, they came in, we were kind of directing them, which, you know, we're not abatement specialists. So I really like the first company. They came in, they went through everything. They got a good handle on what needs to happen.
Right. All right, so at this point, is there a motion to approve the asbestos removal?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
Yeah, so I'm gonna assume we would do this first before the roof, or is it?
No, we probably do the roof first. Do the roof to protect the assets, because the roof right now, what it jeopardizes is Boys and Girls Club and Roof Center and not so much district office, but it's part of that whole component. So if that starts failing, we can jeopardize those other 2 buildings. There's actually classrooms that are in that gym that are underneath that 4-layer roof that's in bed.
Okay, because when we walked through it, I couldn't correlate. I mean, when we walked through, you know, where the wall is at, where the computers are on this side, and then you got the gym
right
over there. So
yeah, and that's still under that. That's under that roof that we're going to replace. Yeah.
Yeah, and that room that goes up on the stairs in the Boys and Girls Club, is that under that roof?
Right.
Also, okay.
And then debatement would happen after.
After, okay.
Right. Any other questions? Discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the asbestos removal, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion is approved. Next on our list, is the curriculum 6012, language arts.
So this is approval of the curriculum that Justin and the teachers took you through 2 weeks ago.
All right, that was good. I really enjoyed looking at the book.
What are you looking at me for? I'm just asking questions, okay? I'm doing my part as a board director.
Correctly the call.
You have to ask tough questions.
Yes.
All right. So I will make the motion to approve the cost of proposal of our language arts adoption curriculum program. Make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion is approved for language arts adoption.
The teachers, thank you at 6:12.
Next one is curriculum dual language.
So this one, we have just a little, real quick information for you on. Maggie is still here, so she's gonna be able to share with you, but this is the recommended Spanish language arts curriculum that will be used in the dual language program.
This is starting, I think, somewhat of a new cycle, but we obviously, if we're going to start a dual language program, we need a Spanish language arts curriculum to go along with an English language we already have. So that is the need. This is grant funded. So even though our dual language is starting just with kindergarten next year, we're taking this opportunity to utilize our grant funding to purchase it through K-5. As our program continues to grow year after year, we're not having to incur an additional cost year after year, not knowing if grants funding will be available at that time. So we're buying it all at once with our grants. And that's maybe the next slide. So we did look at 3 different curriculums. We did choose Adelante because which is Spanish for advanced. It has a strong correlation to the science of reading, phonological awareness, and phonics. So when you think about the conversations that Amy had with the data, it's the same thing in Spanish, right? We need them to learn how to sound out those words and what those sounds sound like within the ear. So there was a strong correlation to that in the program. You know, one of the things that Justin does with his curriculum adoptions is he looks at what are called ed reports, which is like a nonprofit that evaluates curriculum. That nonprofit does not tend to look at bilingual curriculum or dual language curriculum. However, the English side of Adelante, which is called Advanced, received all green high marks on it. So one can assume that if they were to review a Spanish language arts curriculum, that it would receive similar marks. It is a parallel curriculum. So the best way to describe a parallel curriculum, it's not a direct translation out of an English curriculum. So one of the reviews that we looked at, one of the other competitors that we looked at was just a direct translation of an English language arts curriculum, which is not always effective, right? Because learning Spanish is very different than learning English. So when we talk about its parallel, it's similar to its English component, but it's not a direct correlation of it. We also chose it because of the depth of resources, you know, through belonging, this focus on biliteracy and cultural competence. So, you know, when we looked at all of the different components, it just was really well-rounded. The committee, the dual language committee that worked on it, the teachers are actually going to be doing it. That's ultimately where the larger drivers of like, this is the one we want, this is the one we think is going to be the best. So this is what we're doing.
Thank you, Maggie. All right. Do these both separately, or can we do them both together as one?
Oh, did we not do the English one?
No,
We
you
did the English.
You do the
We just need the, just the dual language.
dual language.
Language over there, curriculum benchmark, okay. All right. All right, is there a motion to approve the curriculum of the dual language?
So move.
And second,
I'll second.
1 second. All right, is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion is approved. All right, next, we have food service grant for RHS freezer. I believe this was an addition to our agenda tonight.
Yeah, our
Added early.
current walk-in freezer is failing and we need a new one. Only half of it can be used. It's leaking. And Aaron Bradford, our food service manager, submitted this grant to OSPI and it was awarded. So we get the walk-in freezer, no direct cost to us.
That is excellent.
Who's putting it in?
Mahoric refrigeration.
Okay, so Ed doesn't have to.
I'm meeting with them in the morning, Aaron Bradford and I, to figure out exactly
Oh,
location
well,
and the replacement.
So what happens to the other one?
You'll see it on a surplus list and they're actually taking it as a trade-in.
Oh, they
So
are.
it'll
Oh,
actually be a little less than 54,000.
okay.
Because they'll part it out. And we'll have use for it where we would try to surplus it after it's taken apart and it wouldn't go anywhere. And then we'd have to pay to dump it.
Yeah, I just didn't know if the Roof Center, one of these places could use it, but
No, it's not operational. Like it's on its last leg. You can't get parts for it.
Wonderful.
Which is what they want to put it
What do we know? What were we putting in this fridge?
It is, it's a freezer. So it's the storage, frozen storage for all the food in the district.
It's like the whole week.
Sometimes it lasts longer than a week.
Okay, not if it isn't working.
No.
This is wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. So. Is there a motion to approve our food service grant for the RHS freezer?
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
First and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Next, we are on our public comment for items that were not on our agenda tonight. Do we have anyone? The hallway is dark. Is there anyone online? They've all left. We should wait at least 20 seconds, so that way if somebody does show up, we invite someone again.
No, Randy walked out there. I am the only one online.
All right,
We closed it down.
so at this point, we're done. All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.